SUEZ recently asked Britain Thinks, who are specialists in social and consumer research, to conduct an in-depth study into consumer attitudes towards waste and recycling. As part of the research, we hosted 4 workshops across the country with members of the public, exploring these issues, in particular the concept of extended producer responsibility, and how this concept might alter consumption and disposal habits. We began each session by asking participants what they liked and disliked about the current recycling system, and shared some information with them about how the recycling system really works.
I think in the UK, we are encouraged to recycle, but it's very sort of broad in terms of what you're told you can recycle.
And I just don't think there's enough out there to sort of tell you what's right and what's not.
The household things are okay. I think some of the council-run tips, need a little bit more improvement.
For where I am locally, quite easy. We have food waste, we have recycling bins, we have general waste bins, but that's not always been the case ever, I believe.
I think that we need more ongoing advice, really.
It was clear from research findings that although recycling seems to be important to the public, it must also be convenient and easy. There is also clearly a lot of confusion about what can and cannot be recycled, and little understanding of what happens to recycling once it leaves the doorstep.
As a consumer, you just sort of hear very basic information about recycling. So, you know, understanding how much waste compared to other countries we actually dispose of was interesting.
It would be amazing in schools. Don't you think that presentation about how they package it all? Take you to like a sorting point. You know, it's amazing.
Yeah.
I'd go on a day trip there.
Later in the workshop sessions, we introduced the concept of extended producer responsibility and explained how it works currently, before then asking participants for their opinions.
What do you think about EPR?
I think it sounds good in theory if there's a way that it can be carried out efficiently. I do think producers and stuff should be more responsible for the products they use to begin with.
Good idea, but fundamentally I think it's flawed, because you start putting pressures on other companies or you start making them do more things, but they're just going to go somewhere where they don't have to do it.
If you can get like a sort of centralised thing where everybody's doing it, it becomes the norm, then that sort of paradigm of who pays for it really shifts.
I think everybody should do it. I think if everybody did it, it would change massively.
It does depend on what type of product you're trying to put it down to, or what industry you're putting it to. It just depends how it's actually implemented and what impact it actually finally has on where you put your rubbish at home.
Actually, you still need to ensure that the customer is encouraged to recycle, and so there's a big educational piece that manufacturers and producers can get involved with to ensure that, you know, EPR is actually going to work.
And would you support that in Britain?
Yes, 100%. And I'll be already talking about it already when I leave here.
I do back it massively if it can be managed. They need to be accountable and take control of it at source now.
Sandwich boxes where it's got the plastic on the front.
Yeah.
I just think if everyone's so aware of things like that being an issue, why aren't the companies now already just looking to develop them in a new way? That's what I think.
And where did you roughly end up on EPR? So would you endorse it? Do you think it's doing it? Yes. Yes. Okay.
Still outweighing the cons.
Still outweighing the cons.
For the most part, the participants felt that extended producer responsibility was positive, and were pleased to hear about the current obligations, but they did feel that producers could and should take greater responsibility for products and packaging. Once the research participants understood extended producer responsibility, we asked them whether producers should take greater financial responsibility for collecting and treating waste from their products, perhaps covering up to 100% of the cost, known as full cost recovery.
And what do you think about full cost recovery?
I think it's a good idea, again, as long as it's workable, because I don't quite know how they'd work that at the moment. But I think if you can reasonably do it and you're not prepared to, then you shouldn't get deposits back.
It can be tricky, possibly, to audit that and to make sure that it's regulated, but full cost recovery, I think, would work best. If you categorise materials, they should just pay a flat rate for each tonne of material and however much it costs to recover that material.
I think there needs to be that onus on the producer. It could be a good way of ensuring that producer really thinks about the full life cycle of their product. There has to be a fairness in how that's all set up and what it would do to the price for the consumer.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. I think because then people will start to learn. I don't think it should be a flat rate though. I think it should be a percentage, like a set percentage for everybody.
Again, I think it comes down to the actual product you're talking about. Some things are easily got rid of, other things have got big environmental impact when you do get rid of them. I think it'd be quite hard for businesses have enough legislation and everything else to sort out red tape, government stuff at the moment. So
I'd be more in favour of a full cost recovery system than the one based on EPR.
There was quite widespread support for the idea of full cost recovery, but they did warn that any new recycling systems must be convenient and well coordinated, and the costs passed on to consumers must be minimised. They were also concerned that the system should be fair and should not penalise small businesses. Finally, we asked them about how labels could be used in conjunction with a full cost recovery system to help consumers make informed choices.
I would probably look at that sort of thing. I think knowledge like that is good, and I think it might make consumers then go to companies that were demonstrating from that packaging that they were sort of involved and happy to do that.
For me personally, because I'm quite a visual sort of learner, if something is in as black and white terms on a label, you're going to know exactly where to put it.
It's like the red traffic light one. We've got too much information on it. You pick it up and it's got a red traffic light, so you shouldn't eat it, but it's easily to recycle the packaging. So what do? You can't process too much information.
If you have an eco label on a piece of packaging, there's almost certainly be sharing space with other type of eco labels. So you'd have to make something for the consumer to read out at a glance. So something colour coded.
But if it's labelled and it's packaged and you can see it and it's visible, you're going to look at it and you're going to be like, oh my God, it's recycled and this is what happens to it.
It'll impact the company for the brand recognition, which is going to definitely, that's what they care about, their brand, they're building up the brand.
Consumers wanted to use simple existing symbols. They liked a 3-tier grading system with traffic light colours to emphasise good, average and bad performers. And they wanted to measure performance based on how easy the product or packaging is to recycle. SUEZ believe that an effective producer responsibility system must have several features. It should encourage producers to consider more sustainable product designs which work with existing recycling systems and markets. It should ensure a fair and competitive marketplace and not disadvantage some companies more than others. It should be simple and must empower consumers while also minimising costs passed on to them. And finally, it should offer incentives and rewards to the best performers.